The Atlanta Braves lost 2 out of 3 to the Milwaukee Brewers over the weekend, and no matter if you're a pessimist or an optimist, you saw exactly what you were expecting. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. I want to talk about going forward after this Brewers series, as you get ready to head into the Dodgers series, what the Braves need to do lineup-wise, what needs to change, what needs to be the new way of doing things, as well as what we learned from over the weekend and what was new that we saw in the series loss to the Brewers. But before we do that, just the series as a whole. Braves go 1-2. They score 6 runs. They only allow 8. They hold a very high-scoring Brewers team to 2.7 runs per game. It's a 1.80 ERA. They give up more than a hit an inning. They walk 8 guys over the course of the weekend, but 5 earned runs. 1 home run, which we know from Friday's show, that's not the Brewers' thing. And Atlanta, just like the series against New York, just like the series against Arizona, for the most part, Atlanta was in every single one of these games. I think the only game against a playoff team in this stretch that Atlanta got blown out, so to speak, was the loss to Arizona, the 10-3 loss. And even that one, 3 of those runs came in the 9th inning. It was Danny Young. It was the last gasp of Danny Young before he was DFA'd. And so the problem with this, the problem with the way that this series unfolded and the way that the Braves lost this series is that no matter if you're a pessimist or an optimist, you probably saw exactly what you were wanting to see or what you were expecting to see in this game and in this series and in this stretch against playoff teams. An optimist could easily look at the fact that you were never blown out by any of these teams. Again, the one Arizona loss was a little bit uglier, and it was the only one in the stretch that was more than like a run or two, right? For the most, like Yankees, 3-2 in 10 innings, 5-4 in 9 innings. You win 2-1 in 10. Arizona was 2-0, 10-3, and a 5-3 win. And this was 2-1, 4-1, and a 4-2 win. You were in all of these games. And an optimist could very easily see how one random break that went against Atlanta, if you could flip that, it's entirely possible that the Braves would have come out on top. The balk against Chris Sale in New York, right? Some of the batting average and balls in play, like the BABIP luck against Arizona. Just small little things. Instead of breaking against Atlanta, if they break for Atlanta, you could very easily see how they would have won more games than they did or won some of the series and things like that. A pessimist could very easily and correctly point out that while the games were all close, you didn't actually get those breaks. And that were any of these a best of 3 postseason series, your season would be over. The Braves would be making their plans for Cancun. And so the Braves have to find a way to push into the win column in those close games. And I feel like the pitching staff did their job. They did what they needed to do. Against the Brewers, the Braves had 20 strikeouts, so they're right around between 6 and 7 per game right there. They only walked 8 guys. And they allowed a lot of base hits because that is what Milwaukee does. But again, those turned into 5 earned runs and 8 total runs. Balls induced, then fly balls and line drives. I think they gave up 5 total extra base hits, 3 doubles, 1 triple, and a homer. And one of the doubles and the triple all came in the same inning off of Dylan Lee. Raisel Iglesias got you out of that. And they induced, I think they got 4 double plays. Should have been 5 if not for Matt Olson being called for being charged with an error on that. And we can talk about that real quick. In Game 3, just because a lot of people aren't quite sure of how this works. In Game 3, Andrew Vaughn's on first base, ground ball to Matt Olson at first. And he does the thing he always does. He charges, he makes the scoop, and he fires to first base from the infield grass. I'm sorry, he fires to second base to start the double play. But Andrew Vaughn is running 2 or 3 steps in the infield grass. Throw hits him in the helmet, goes into the outfield. It's charged as an error, a throwing error on Matt Olson. Breaking down an old chestnut here. 2 things can be true at once. 1, Matt Olson did not deserve to get charged an error on that. 2, Andrew Vaughn is well within the rules and allowed to do that. He is not out of the baseline because MLB rules state the baseline is not established until a tag attempt is made. You can run wherever you want until somebody tries to tag you. And when they try to tag you, the baseline is at that point created, and it is a direct line from your position at the moment of the attempted tag plus 3 feet in either direction. It's a straight line from you to the base you were running to. Again, 3 feet on either side. But again, it's not established until a tag attempt is made. So Andrew Vaughn's perfectly legal to be on the infield grass at that moment. Now, he would have gotten charged with interference had he either tried to jump up to hit the ball, waved his arms, done anything outside of the normal course of running to the base to try and deflect the ball or interfere with the throw. He would have been ruled interference against him. But he was perfectly legal to do what he did, and it worked out for him. And they were talking to Milwaukee's manager on the broadcast at the moment, and he said, we've been called for interference on that play before, but Andrew Vaughn did it perfectly. That's the kind of little thing that just went against Atlanta in this series, and they didn't do enough to manufacture the close things themselves, right? And you can just point it, you can just look and count up the things on Sunday, the little things that the Braves didn't do well. Ronald Acuna Jr. was thrown out trying to score from second on an Ozzie Albies single to left. He looked early. He did not see a stop sign from Tommy Watkins, so he put his head down and kept chugging. Watkins threw up a late stop sign. Ronald got the signal way too late. He was halfway down the line towards home when he saw Watkins throw up the stop sign. And so he slammed on the brakes, which is nerve-wracking when a dude has a surgically repaired ACL. 2 of them, I'm sorry. He threw on the brakes and turned around and tried to make it back to third base, and William Contreras picked him off, backpicked him and got him at third, thrown out. Sean Murphy had a runner on third and 1 out in the second inning, and he popped out. Now, he had a similar situation in the 4th inning, and he was able to complete to get the RBI, right? He got the 2-out RBI single in the 4th. But Austin Riley, in that exact same runner on third situation before Murphy had the RBI single in the 4th, Riley struck out. Matt Olson grounded into 2 separate double plays. In his first 2 at-bats, actually. Ronald got on, and Olson immediately erased it with a double play. Walt Weiss left Lane Thomas, who is there to hit lefties, left him in to face a righty to open the 6th, and he grounded out. Just all of the little things that Atlanta didn't do well. They still were able to win last night, but overall, those things haven't been there. And because those things haven't been there, if this were the playoffs, Atlanta would be done. And again, an optimist can easily see, oh yeah, the Braves are 1 or 2 breaks away from beating these teams and advancing. A pessimist could easily see that, hey, you didn't get those though, and you lost. And so you need things to go better for you when you do these series again in October than they went for you this time. And you had 3 chances. You had 3 different series against postseason teams of various levels of quality. Yankees, Diamondbacks, Brewers, and you didn't win any of them. And now you're about to get the toughest test of them all in the Dodgers. The current version of the Atlanta Braves is somewhere in the middle between the best team in baseball that they were in March and April and the worst team in baseball they were in June. And the question is where? Where in the middle are they? And I think the recency bias has a lot of fans thinking they are closer towards the June worst team in baseball side than the March and April best team in baseball side. And what needs to happen is the Braves need to find a way to push, I'm going to use a political term here, push the Overton window closer towards that March-April version of the Braves than the June version of the Braves. In just a minute, let's talk about some ways to do that. Some things the Braves can do to maybe optimize what they're doing with the lineup, with the roster. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Second segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Okay, we saw a couple different things by the Braves in this series. And I think thing number one is we saw Mauricio Dubón make 2 out of 3 starts at shortstop. You faced one lefty in this series on Sunday. And we've seen the Braves before do the thing where they have played Dubón at short when there's a lefty on the mound and Sean Murphy's behind the plate and Drake Baldwin's at DH. We saw that same defensive configuration last night, despite with a lefty on the mound, but we also saw Dubón at shortstop on Friday without a lefty on the mound. I think we're in the position where the last 2 weeks, Dubón has made more starts at shortstop than Jarvis has. Dubón has, since the end of the Mets series, Dubón has 6 starts at short. Jarvis has 5. And I think we're at the point where, let's just stop overthinking this. Mauricio Dubón's the shortstop. The last 15 days, a lot of the Braves are struggling here, right? Matt Olson's hitting 185. Ronald's hitting 164. Ozzy's hitting 200, right? Mauricio Dubón has the 3rd best batting average on the team in that stretch at 268. Now, OPS, it's still in the high 5s, right? His OPS is 7th on the team. It's better than Ozzy's. It's better than Ronald's. In that same stretch, Jim Jarvis is 1 for 20, with a 224 OPS. And I think it's abundantly clear now that what the Braves need to do, just make Mauricio Dubón the shortstop going forward. And that probably requires moving keeping Ha-Seong Kim and moving Jim Jarvis back to Gwinnett. There is nothing to be gained by leaving Jim Jarvis on the bench more than half the time. As a young player, if you want him to improve when he has shown some of these struggles and things like that in the majors, then he needs to be playing every day. Move him back to AAA. Let him play every day. Another consideration here on this is you have until September 1st for playoff eligibility. And by that, I mean anybody in your organization who you want the ability to play in the playoffs has to be on the 60-day IL or the 40-man roster by September 1st. So, if you think that there's somebody in the minors that is a potential option, you need to add them to the 40-man roster. And I'm thinking about somebody like a Brett Wisely. You used him in the majors last year. If you were to send Jim Jarvis down, the corresponding, it's not like you have a bunch of offensive options that are raking in Gwinnett right now. You would be looking for another backup infield option. Brett Wisely would be that guy. He needs to be on the 40-man roster by September 1st if you want him to be eligible for the postseason. Right now, the only bats in Gwinnett that are eligible for the postseason is, you called up Brewer Hicklin yesterday as the 27th man for this game and did not use him. As of time of recording at 8:30 in the morning, we do not yet have the official move as to him being sent back to Gwinnett. We assume he is, right? There's no reason to think he's not unless they do something different. But like you're coming up on the time where you've got to declare this. I don't think Brett Wisely is your answer for anything. But if you want him to be available for the postseason, which is probably pretty smart, is having him available if you were to need him, you've got a week to make that decision. One of the problems you have here is the 40-man roster is full. So you would have to move a depth piece somewhere in order to get him onto the 40-man roster. You could make a spot via putting Robert Suarez on the 60-day IL. He's been out since June 19th, so that doesn't change his timeline to return, but then you would need to make a spot for him when he's ready to come back. Maybe you just push this down the road and you do that. I don't know. But for me, it makes more sense to send Jarvis back to AAA and add another depth option to the roster in the last week that you can do so. Even if you end up not keeping Brett Wisely or using him in the postseason, him being eligible would be a good thing. Maybe it's an outfielder. A lot of people are asking for Patrick Cloesy to be postseason eligible, so if nothing else, he can be a pinch runner or a defensive replacement for you if you need it. He, in the minors this year between AA and AAA, he's hitting .290 with a .377 on base and a .473 slug. He has 58 stolen bases. I mean, he's only hit he's hit 10 home runs all year. He's got 5 triples. The speed is there. The defense is there. His walk rate's 10, 11%. His strikeout rate's 1%. He's not in any way a finished product. But given that you moved on from Eli White and Jorge Mateo, if Lane Thomas is in the game for you and you need a pinch runner, who's your best option for that? Ha-Seong Kim? There's a couple different things you can do. I think those are some of the changes. Changes number 1 is just play Dubón at shortstop almost every day. Honestly, I'll go back to, I still wish they'd have found a way to give Ha-Seong Kim a week worth of starts once he returned from the IL. He played almost every day in rehab. The results weren't there. The inputs were much better. Hitting the ball hard, drawing walks, not chasing a ton. All of that stuff was there, and then he just came back and never played. And also, I'm starting to wonder if you need to do something similar to this at catcher. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Sean Murphy is the best defensive catcher the Braves have. And I know there's a lot of people who are completely out on Sean Murphy because around the various injuries he has had, he has not hit. And that's a perfectly fair frustration and concern to have. He has just under a full season worth of plate appearances across the last 3 years combined, 24, 25, and 26. And the people who are frustrated with how he's not hit, they're not wrong. He hasn't hit. 24 through 26. A full season's considered 660 plate appearances. He's at 643 right now. He has a 193 batting average and an OPS in the 6s. Here's the thing, it's still 26 home runs, right? Still 70-something RBI. But I'm of the opinion, and we heard Walt Weiss talk on the broadcast last night about how good Sean Murphy and Tyler Mahle have worked together. About how Sean Murphy's been really helpful at designing the pitching plans and guiding these guys through their starts. He has been the catcher for Tyler Mahle since Mahle got to Atlanta. And in return, we've seen Mahle with a 1.52 ERA in Atlanta. CJ Nikowski, a friend of the show, had a graphic that he put on social media last night because it was an ESPN game, and I'm so tired of ESPN games. Can't wait for them to be done. That of all of the starting pitchers traded at the deadline, the best by a couple different metrics, not just ERA, but I think he had the second best strikeout rate behind Tarek Skubal, has been Tyler Mahle. He had, I think it was the best walk rate. He had the second best strikeout rate. He had the best ERA. It was Tyler Mahle. And this is all small sample sizes, right? It's 17, 20 innings for each guy. But some of that, according to Walt Weiss himself, is Sean Murphy catching Tyler Mahle and some of these other guys. And here's my viewpoint on this. Especially if you're making Mauricio Dubón the shortstop and just having him play it, not every single day, right? You'll still give some guys some days off, but you're still playing it a lot. He's still going to play it a lot. Why not let Sean Murphy be the primary catcher for a week or two? Play him a lot more than he's been playing. And I think, one, by doing that, you get much better defense and game calling behind the plate. And somebody accused me of disrespecting Drake Baldwin with this, and it's nothing against Drake Baldwin. He's perfectly fine, average, for the most part, defensively, even though I'm not the biggest fan of his game calling. I don't mean to imply that he can't be a catcher or anything. I'm not. He is roughly average in a lot of defensive metrics. Blocks above average, he's at +1. Framing, he's at +2. It's like 55th percentile, 60th percentile. He's slightly above average. Caught stealing above average, 3rd percentile. That's just not an area he's good at. Something that's not being quantified on StatCast, but game calling, a lot of people, and it's not just me, a lot of people within the game as well, and you heard Walt Weiss talk about the Sean Murphy side of this, think that Murphy is one of the best game callers in baseball. And so play Sean Murphy more often. I think part of that is we've seen him be really good with consistent playing time. And the problem is, to find that consistent playing time because of the injuries, you have to go all the way back to 2023. And there's a lot of people who automatically discount this argument because you're referencing 3 seasons ago. And I understand that viewpoint. I don't agree with it. I understand that viewpoint. But the fact remains, when Sean Murphy plays every day, he is one of the best hitters that the Braves have had behind the plate, short of Drake Baldwin. And I'll reference that 2023 season. He entered in the 6th inning of a game on April 8th because Travis d'Arnaud had to leave the game. And from there, he played virtually every day until May 10th. It was 28 games where I don't believe he missed a game in its entire... No, he had 1 full game off in that stretch. He played virtually every single day, including being in the lineup for both games of a doubleheader on May 1st against the Mets. If I remember correctly, I think he DH'd one of those 2. I'm not sure, but he was in the lineup for both games of a doubleheader. And then he didn't start towards the end of that, but he came in the 8th, and he played. They went all the way to 12 innings, so he played all the way to the very end. In that stretch, He hit 305 with an 1105 OPS. I know it's 1 month. I know it was 2023. But this has been a pattern in his career going back for as long as he's been in the league. When he gets consistent playing time, he's been better. And right now, I think it's worth trying because you can use the DH spot to not take at-bats away from Drake Baldwin. And it's not like anybody else on the roster. It's not like you're taking a good bat out of the lineup to do it. In the last 15 days, Dominic Smith is hitting 125 with a 301 OPS. Your designated hitter, who's not providing any defensive value and is just there to hit, is not hitting. Jim Jarvis is 1 for 20. Heck, Sean Murphy has a better batting average and close to the same OPS as Ronald Acuna Jr. in that stretch. Both of them have an OPS that starts in that's in the high fours. I'm not saying Sean Murphy's the answer. I'm not saying he's going to fix the offense. But I'm saying literally, what do you have to lose? And if you are the type of person who's going to respond to that question with the division, because Sean Murphy's not hitting, I'm going to remind you of the Nick Allen corollary. Okay? If you're losing games because your number 9 hitter isn't producing at the plate on a nightly basis, the actual reason you're losing games is the top of the lineup, not the bottom. If the Braves aren't winning, and if most of the guys aren't hitting, why not try and see if you can get some other parts of the offense in the roster going? And I think there's an argument that Ha-Seong Kim doesn't give you anything at shortstop that Mauricio Dubón doesn't. That's fine. If you want to make that argument, that's perfectly fine. I think you're probably right. His defense hasn't been the same this year. And coming off of the shoulder surgery, it wasn't the same last year. That's fine. Mauricio Dubon's probably better than him in every respect. But we've seen Sean Murphy has a positive impact on pitchers from behind the plate. And the best postseason configuration of this lineup is Murphy behind the plate, Baldwin at DH, Ronald in right field, Dubón at shortstop. You can't try this at every position, right? You can't play Kim every day and Murphy every day. But if you're going to pick one, pick Sean Murphy. It's not like you have to bench a hot hitter to do this. It's not like he's going to be the reason you don't win the division if you end up continuing to struggle both against LA this week and the 7 times you face the Phillies next month. But can he be, if you can get him closer to his career norms, give him 2 weeks to see if you can get there, right? If you play 14 games, let him start 11 or 12 of those. If you can get him there, that lengthens your lineup and your defense. And you could argue the reason Atlanta won on Sunday was the defense. Sean Murphy's part of that. Today's an off day. It feels like it's a pretty important off day before the Braves will take on the Dodgers this week. We're going to preview that series tomorrow, talk about the pitching matchups. We're going to talk about what the Braves need to do offensively, what they need to do on the mound, how to attack those 3 starters they're going to see. Again, some fantastic matchups. Again, playoff caliber atmosphere. This one hopefully in Truist Park, even though it's a midweek series. And we'll be back to break it all down. That'll do it for Braves Today for Monday, August 24th. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.